I had lost everything that I'd ever had. My marriage had disintegrated. I'd lost my children, and I didn't really know who I was. I pointed the gun to my chest, and I pulled the trigger.
There's not a single veteran that I know who doesn't know somebody who's committed suicide.
And that is a bit from Thank You for Your Service, a documentary about the mental health crisis facing the U.S. military. According to new data from the Department of Veterans Affairs, in 2014, the latest year available, over 7,400 veterans took their own lives. Roughly 20 veterans a day are dying by their own hand. Joining us now to discuss is Sergeant William Rodriguez, decorated three-time Operation Enduring Iraqi Freedom veteran, and Tom Donahue, director and producer of Thank You for Your Service. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here today. These are just deplorable and unacceptable numbers. William, would you tell us first about your own personal journey from being a soldier to what you do now?
Yeah, so after I got back from my third tour, I realized that something was wrong. I got out of the military and I didn't have an identity anymore. I didn't really have a mission. I started going to school because I had the GI Bill and they allowed me to do that. And after bouncing around from degree to degree and not really understanding what was going on, I realized that I was having some mental health issues of my own. I was self-medicating with alcohol, and it wasn't a good thing. And so I started studying mental health. And just when I graduated with my bachelor's degree, the University of Southern California was starting a military-specific social work program. And I was lucky enough to be a part of their first graduating class. And that set me on a path to understand my own issues relating to PTSD, but also to help spread my awareness. And we have a saying that I am my brother's and sister's keeper, and I really wanted to embody that in my own work.
So you see firsthand how deep the need is, and you point out in your film that the military needs more people like William. I mean, should the word go out to college students everywhere, there are jobs here, you know, apply for these counselor positions?
Sure. Absolutely. There's only a couple of these military social work programs in the country.
Yeah.
C being the leader.
And the need is great.
And we would love to show the film to social work programs around the country to inspire people to get into military social work.
Yeah. And it's a current issue. We have a soundbite from Donald Trump. He was addressing, I think, a veterans group in Virginia yesterday. We're going to play it.
When people come back from war and combat and they see things that maybe a lot of the folks in this room have seen many times over, and you're strong and you can handle it, but a lot of people can't handle it.
So how do you think about the way he framed it there? I mean, is it good just that people are talking about this, or was that problematic?
I'm personally happy that both campaigns have addressed the issue of mental health in the military and among veterans. We think a lot of it has to do with our film has been out since January, traveling the country, and we've talked to both campaigns about the issue, about the idea of instituting a behavioral health corps in the military. So I think they're actually aware of the issue, and he's at least showing that he's paying attention to the issue.
Now, your film makes the point, which is so important to understand, that there are as many types of mental health issues for soldiers coming out of war than there are physical issues, correct? Give us an example of some of the different kinds of mental wounds.
Yeah, so you can have anything from post-traumatic stress disorder to various types of anxiety disorders, depression, moral injury. Just the idea of what has to occur in war can shake one's psyche to its very core.
What does moral injury mean exactly?
Well, moral injury is where you're forced to do something that you morally object against, and the impact that it has later on in your life.
You have a subject in the film. He grew up as a devout Christian, and he learned never to kill. This is a tenet of Christianity.
Right.
And he came back from Iraq and was not able to deal with. He couldn't settle in his life.
He said, "I didn't know how I couldn't see myself as a murderer."
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. And there's no one to help these soldiers transition.
Well, the transition process is at very least fragmented. right? The major issue when dealing with veterans transition is the establishment of a new identity and support. I truly believe that veterans are well suited to make a huge difference in a positive impact in their community if they can get the support that they need upon the transition.
Right.
Right. The idea of establishment of a new identity is at the very core of that. I mean, we all see the Vietnam veterans and older generations of veterans that have never really established a new identity. They just carried that war trauma with them their whole life.
Right.
And we think by raising awareness about this issue that we can help my generation of veterans and future generation of veterans to reintegrate back into society successfully.
There's a lovely story in the film of Lou Labello. Tell us about that and how you included that in the film.
I actually came across a New Yorker article when I started kind of researching the topic in 2012, and the article by Dexter Filkins really blew me away. So in that article is a paragraph on Lou's friend Kenny Toon, who was in the same squad as he. And so I got in touch with Lou, and Lou brought Kenny to do an interview. And both of their interviews were spectacular, and I realized I should follow this story.
And just to get viewers up to speed, Lou found the family members of civilians who were inadvertently killed by, I guess, his squadron in Baghdad.
In the initial invasion of Baghdad.
In the initial invasion. He had been haunted by this situation ever since he read Dexter's article, correct?
Right.
And how long did it take him to find the relatives?
Well, so they killed the civilians in 2003. In 2007, he saw an article by Dexter Filkins, who had met the survivors at a hospital nearby, and it blew him away. And so he got in touch with Dexter and said, help me meet this family.
The courage that must have taken. Are there more stories like Lou's?
You want to answer that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stories like Lou's.
Yeah.
I think that what Lou did was incredibly noble and heartfelt in saying that regardless of what side we're on, we're all humans and we all deserve dignity and respect. And at the very least, I want to go and acknowledge my involvement in this incident and to express his.
And it was amazing that the
yeah.
family accepted him, and at the end there was just this. I mean, it's such a moving.
Give away the ending.
I'm not going to give away the ending, but I have chills just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Your film also makes the point that for centuries there have been civilizations that have warriors, right? But we have always, or cultures have always dealt with the reintegration of warriors. And you look at the Native American community and how there are many veterans who are finding some solace in these ceremonies. Is that right?
Yeah, I think when you're looking at what to do about warrior reintegration, sometimes we just have to look back and to say, hey, we've been fighting war for a long time, and people and societies have understood how to do this, and maybe we could, learn a thing or two by just looking backwards and by seeking knowledge from them.
There's some wisdom there.
Exactly.
This has been going on for centuries in the human condition.
And we can learn.
Are we forgetting some of that? Do you think in the modern condition, we just assume that people can carry on without the ceremony that's needed, the cleansing?
I think there has, I do. I think that the lack of ritual is a huge part of the transition issue, and I think that it becomes an issue of just not knowing. We don't know what we don't know, right? And so we're not communicating with each other enough to say and to give this a real, the dedication that it deserves. In a divided society, some of us are at war and some of us aren't, right? People say, well, I'm not for the war, so that's none of my business, right? But collectively, we have been all at war,
and we have to all accept our role. It is not we have not just sent the soldiers out to do the dirty work for us. We are all part of this.
Exactly.
Right, and that was easier to see after World War II, when most of the men had gone off and fought and came back. They were all in it together.
Right.
And today it's less than 0.5% have served in the military.
Right. So what is the answer? Looking forward, one thing that you suggest in the film, which I think is wonderful, is to make mental health treatments mandatory, to erase any stigma. Is that something that the military is considering doing? Do you know?
I think the military is looking at a lot of positive changes.
Right.
And that is probably one of them, but I don't have the information.
Right.
Yeah. But the establishment of a behavioral health core, I think, is key, right? Because going back to the communication that we talked about, by integrating psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, and therapists all under one core, under one commander, right? Not, you have twofold. You have the clinicians being able to connect to each other and talk to each other, but then you also have somebody that's in charge of military mental health.
Right.
Right now, nobody's in charge.
Right.
So if nobody's in charge, it's nobody's real responsibility.
William, you should establish, are you working with the VA right now? Are you?
Yeah, we're working with everybody to try to spread this message to say that there are potential solutions. In the military, we're taught not to bring up a problem unless you have a potential solution. Right, and that's exactly what we're trying to do with the film.
You have some great solutions. William and Tom, thanks so much to both of you for bringing this important issue to light.
Thank you.